Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for being before the committee today.
Thank you.
This past year, obviously in September, we saw an unprecedented event in Pennsylvania in that we had Tropical Storm Lee come through that surpassed all previous floods of record. The damage was just unbelievable. I know that your department was extremely busy all across the state with reviewing the damages that had occurred at the time, and I know that your department is also very busy at the present time trying to evaluate what can be done to prevent future occurrences or the mitigating effects from these occurrences. Now, we've seen funding for DEP's flood control projects eliminated from the budget again. In Columbia County, we are embarking on, again, a continual effort to put flood protection in. These programs have been on the shelf gathering dust for a number of years. It always takes a wake-up call that obviously we had. So I guess my first question to you is with regards to that appropriation being eliminated. Can you explain that?
Well, I think I was here last year, and that was the same question, and might be the same line item. DP still has a very active and healthy dam safety, dam control, so on and so forth. And what was line itemed were the smaller, more localized projects, sometimes of very short duration. And let me say that whatever flood control projects would or wouldn't have happened, that flooding that took place this past year would have happened anyway.
Understandable.
That was unprecedented in history, and whatever had been done to attempt to, nothing physically could have been done is the bottom line. The good news is, and I think you voted for HB 1950, I'm almost sure you did.
I did.
And that was a good vote. Especially for your constituents, and that's because as Act 13, as you know, as I'm sure you must know, contains provisions such that the impact fee can be used for floodplain management. Counties and municipalities can receive that money directly and use it for floodplain management. And also flood control projects. As, about, I think, up to 25% of the money goes to or some amount goes to CFA, and that's specifically authorized for flood control projects. So that's the good news.
Well, we have in Columbia County another issue of certain magnitude depending upon where it's located, and that's gravel barring and debris that has collected on these gravel bars throughout the county. Fishing Creek is one location of it. Huntington Creek is another, but I want to focus on Fishing Creek. And as you're quite aware of, I was able to obtain $1 million from Governor Rendell before he vacated the office to address these issues in Columbia County as a result of the 2006 flood event. And your department is currently working on a couple of projects related to that. One of the things that was told to me was the fact that in addition to engineers saying that removing gravel bars is really not all that effective, or doing limited dredging isn't all that effective, that if in the course of agreeing to remove a gravel bar, that if they exceed 200 feet, then we get into Army Corps of Engineer permits. Now, what I've requested that they do is, in addition to the other scope of work contained within the project, is to remove 199 feet of the gravel bar so that we obviously do not have to get any Army Corps permit. In conversation with your department, I have found out that even though there is substantial dollars left in that $1 million that I was able to obtain, that it will not address removal of the gravel bar. And I guess that I make an appeal for you today on behalf of the residents in the lower end of Bloomsburg that we expand that contract and do indeed remove some of that gravel barring. Now, I also understand that these things can come back, but Mr. Secretary, you have an open invite, of course, to come and view this yourself. I'd love to show it to you. We've got so many gravel bars on Fishing Creek that have heavy vegetation, and we're not talking berry bushes or anything, we're talking trees of a substantial circumference, that there is an extreme amount of gradual buildup after this last event. It continues to build up, and the debris is still there. Community groups have gotten together to do some cleanup of these areas, but we need your help. We need your department's help. I know that you've issued many permits. People have expended their own dollars to go in and do some of this work, and now they're being re-inspected, saying that in the effort to protect their own property, that they've gone too far, and they've got to expend additional dollars to go back and operate within the parameters of the permits that were issued. So my other concern here is that when these permits are issued, and we're thankful for that, the G4 permits, but we need an on-site presence so that when they spend their dollars, that they spend them once, that they do it according to what your standards are, and that we have every cooperation available to us. And I just finished this with asking you to comment on the gravel barring, but before I do that, I want to indicate my willingness to work with you. Several years ago in Columbia County, we had one of the largest tire piles in the state of Pennsylvania, probably in the eastern seaboard. And I worked with the previous secretary in DEP and your department very comfortably, very effectively to do this removal. And I feel that working together now with you, with your department, we can have the same results with the flood effort here to remove gravel barring and prevent a disaster in the future.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and what I commit to you is two things. Number one, at my Senate hearing, I invited a senator to come visit us, and I would show him certain things. Can I invite myself up to your area and you show me the particular gravel bar or gravel bar at issue?
Indeed, I will.
I will put that on my calendar, or get, as they say proverbially, my people will call your people.
Sure.
Or if I have your cell phone, I'll call you directly. We'll make it more personal. I would like to get up there and see that for myself. The second thing is I will look into this specific issue of the $1 million and the gravel bar myself and report back to you on it personally.
Okay. Well, I look forward to working with you, and Tom Santana has been wonderful from your staff to work with.
He is wonderful for me to work with, too, so I'm glad the feeling is mutual on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.